way you came in, come around back here, and head for the stand of trees back here. And somewhere deep in the stand of trees, there is a restroom facility, I promise. And so, with that said, before I turn it over to her, I do want to say that Morgan's book that she's going to be talking about is available for sale. If you haven't gotten your copy, we can sell them today. You can see Julie afterwards, and she can ring you up, and Morgan will sign them for you. I'm volunteering that for her. I don't know. But with all that said, I am excited to have Morgan here today to share her story with us. Morgan and I've been here pretty similar timelines. I think we started volunteering a little bit after I started here. And it's just been a real pleasure to work with her, to have her be part of our team. Anyone who knows her knows she's full of life and very optimistic and bubbly and just a wonderful person. And a terrible thing happened to her, and the way she approaches it and the way she lives life every day is just a real inspiration, and I'm going to turn it over to her before I tear up. So, thanks, Morgan.
Hi, friends. Thank you for being here. I want to start by saying that speaking to you is something I once dreamed of. I didn't think it would be possible. And my severe aphasia, which is the loss or jumbling up of words, happened when I first had my stroke. And I remember saying to a nurse, I have to go to the bathroom, and really I meant I was hungry. So they were all jumbled up. So this talk that I'm going to have with you, to me it's amazing, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without endless amounts of therapy. And that's why I'm so proud of myself, because I am standing here talking to you guys. Thank you all for being here. There was a time when my future felt very vague, in a very physical way. I'm here today to talk about survival, not the optimistic, cheerful type of survival, but the inspirational, the real version. The version that comes after everyone tells you you're lucky to be alive. Because surviving is not the same as being okay. I want to share with you parts of my story, read a little bit from my book, and talk honestly about what it means to live in a body that's been changed by trauma. I'm here because stories like this don't get told enough. Because AVMs happen to 18 in 100,000 people. They are very rare. They happen to less than 1% of the population. And in about 50% of ruptured AVMs, they're fatal. 50%. So before I changed everything, I moved in the world without thinking about my body. It worked, it responded, I trusted it. I made plans assuming I'd be able to follow through on them. I assumed my energy would be there, that my balance would hold, that tomorrow would look mostly like today. I was going to the Sandra Day O'Connor Law School that fall. I was working 2 jobs. I was doing a lot. But I loved a lot. I still do. I didn't think about how much identity lives inside the body until mine stopped cooperating. Back then, I thought strength looked like pushing through, like ignoring discomfort, like independence at all costs. I didn't know that strength would eventually mean something very different. There's something important that I need to rewind for. When I was 18 years old, I learned a word that I had never heard before. arteriovenous malformation, AVM. I heard of this after going to various doctors for numbness on my right side, which happened due to a fall. I was goofing off in theater class when a boy pulled me off the stage and I hit my head twice. I went to the nurse's office and she cleared me and I went about my day. And the next morning I woke up and I said, I ran into a wall. I thought, that's weird. I feel kind of numb over here. And I went back down to the nurse's office and I tripped on the way to her office. And I thought, something's wrong. After ending up down at Barrow's Neurological Institute, the doctors explained that something in my brain wasn't wired correctly. It couldn't be fixed because of where it was located. Right in my thalamus, which is right in the center of your brain. How could I have a brain AVM? And a brain AVM with 3 aneurysms. At 18, you don't know what to do with information like that. You're told enough to understand the words, but you're young enough to believe it won't happen to you. I remember thinking, okay, but I feel fine. The numbing has even started to go away. I was told what could happen. I was told the risks. But risks feel theoretical when you're young. It felt like something that belonged to a future version of me. Someone I couldn't fully imagine yet. So, I did what a lot of people do. I put it in a box. I lived my life, I made my plans, I trusted my body anyway. I didn't walk around thinking I was fragile. I walked around thinking I was normal, with a footnote. For a long time, that worked. Until it didn't. I want to read a short section from my book on what AVMs are and how they're diagnosed. So I'm going to read chapter 5, How AVMs Are Diagnosed, page 59 through 63. An arteriovenous malformation is a tangle of abnormal blood vessels that connect arteries and veins in the brain or less commonly other parts of the body. Normally, arteries carry oxygen-rich blood from the heart to the brain, and veins carry the blood back. Between them, tiny capillaries slow the flow and allow oxygen to reach the brain tissue. But with an AVM, that delicate system is bypassed. Instead, blood flows too quickly through the tangled vessels, putting enormous pressure on them and the surrounding brain. How AVMs occur. The exact cause of AVMs is still unknown. In most cases, they are believed to be congenital, meaning people are born with them. Scientists don't yet fully understand why they form during development, but it's not enough to be genetic in most cases. There are some studies saying that they are hereditary, but we really don't know. There are rare instances where trauma, surgery, or other vascular changes may play a role in causing or unmasking AVMs, but for the most part, they are something that you carry silently from birth. In some cases, many people have what's called a dural AV fistula, which is slightly different and can sometimes be acquired later in life. How AVMs are diagnosed. The tricky part is that AVMs often stay hidden until they cause a problem. Many people never know that they have one unless it ruptures or is discovered by accident during imaging for something else, like a concussion, car accident, or persistent headaches. The main tools used to diagnose AVMs are MRI, which provides detailed pictures of the brain and can detect AVMs and related damage, a CT scan, which is useful in emergencies, especially to detect bleeding from a rupture, or a cerebral angiogram, which is the gold standard and which I'm having next week. A specialized test where dye is injected into the blood vessels and x-rays, or using an x-rays map at the detail of the AVM. Many people live their entire lives unaware that they have one. Can AVMs be detected early? Unless there's a reason for a doctor to order brain imaging, AVMs usually go undetected. There's no routine screening for them, and most people don't get regular brain scans unless symptoms push them to. That said, there are symptoms that can sometimes give clues. Headaches, especially ones that feel different from your normal headaches, persistent dull pain, or sudden severe headaches. Seizures, unexplained new onset seizures can sometimes be the first sign. Neurological changes, weakness, numbness, vision problems, difficulty speaking, or balance issues that appear suddenly or gradually. Mood or personality changes, subtle shifts that don't have any other clear explanation. Unfortunately, many of these symptoms are vague and could be caused by other conditions, which is why AVMs often remain undiagnosed until a rupture occurs. How AVMs are treated. Treatment depends on the size, location, and risk level of the AVM. Options include gamma knife radiosurgery, which I've had, a non-invasive procedure that uses targeted radiation to shrink and close off the AVM over time, endovascular embolization. A surgeon threads a catheter into the blood vessels and injects a glue-like substance to block abnormal blood flow. A craniotomy, which is brain surgery, which I've also had. For some AVMs, a neurosurgeon may physically remove the malformation. And monitoring. In cases where treatment poses more risk than the AVM itself, doctors may recommend watchful waiting with regular imaging. Living with the unknown. It is one of the hardest things about AVMs is the uncertainty. They may sit silently for years or rupture suddenly. Some people live their whole lives never knowing they have one. Others, like me, only discover it after a life-changing event. That's why paying attention to unusual symptoms matters. If you're experiencing headaches that feel like any you've had before, seizures, or unexplained neurological changes, it's always worth pushing for answers. Sometimes that's the only chance to catch an AVM before it bursts. The day everything changed didn't feel cinematic. It felt confusing, disorienting, scary in an internal, quiet way. My body began doing things I couldn't even understand months before. A few months before, my emotions were all over the place. My right side eyelashes, I know this is weird, my eyelashes were pin straight. My left side eyelashes were nice and curly, my right side were pin straight. My hand numbness, which I had, and I even saw an OT for a few months prior. I had this pain in my hand that would not go away. I should have known that something was wrong. I just didn't want to accept it. May 30th, 2021, we were working at the graduation, running around like chickens with our head cut off. Finally, we were done. I went to my best friend and started explaining to her how I was feeling, before realizing something was wrong. She knew that something was wrong. We both knew that something was wrong. There was a fear, but also a disbelief. That sense of, this cannot be happening to me. When you experience a medical emergency like this, your agency disappears quickly. People talk over you, around you, about you, and then I blacked out for almost a month. I don't remember anything. Brain surgery, gamma knife, angiograms. I don't remember getting into an ambulance. I don't remember being helicoptered to Phoenix. And at that point, I didn't know that my life had split into two parts, before and after. I want to read a short section from my book. This was written while I was still trying to understand what had happened to me. It's on page 82 to 92. It's called Recovery. The truth is, I don't remember much from my time in the neuro ICU. It's like an entire chapter of my life is written in ink, in invisible ink, there, but unreadable. I've pieced together fragments from what my mom told me, from photos, from the emotional echoes I still carry. According to my mom, I was already in speech therapy while in the ICU, along with physical therapy, occupational therapy. That feels wild to think about. My brain had just been through something traumatic, and already we were doing the hard work of trying to speak again. My mom told me the therapist kept asking me to cough to help check my airway strength. I guess I got a little bit sassy at some point and said, cough, 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 like a bratty teenager mocking a teacher. That sarcastic streak, that spice, still made it through. That was me showing up again. People have told me stories. Doctors, nurses. I try to stitch together their words like pieces of a quilt, but no matter how hard I try, the fabric doesn't quite come together. It's not mine. It's like hearing about a movie you never saw and pretending you were there. I can't remember being wheeled into the operating room for the craniotomy. I can't remember the lights above me, the beeping monitors, or the look on anyone's face. I can't remember feeling fear or relief or anything at all. That surgery saved my life, and I have absolutely no memory of it. That fact haunts me sometimes. I feel like I was removed from the world and then dropped back into it without warning. And when I returned, nothing was the same, especially me. I didn't know how to walk or talk. I didn't even know how to be. The world was familiar, but foreign. My body was my own, but it didn't respond the way it used to. I was trapped in a fog, unable to express what I needed or what I felt. Words slipped away from me like water through open hands. And still, I was alive. Some people tell me how lucky I am. And I nod because they're right. I am lucky. That doesn't mean that it wasn't terrifying. Being alive doesn't erase the grief of losing time, of losing pieces of yourself. There's a strange guilt that comes with not remembering. Like I should remember, like I owe it to the people who were there, who fought for me, who sat beside me while I lay unconscious, or tried to say my first words again. But the truth is, memory is not something we can will into existence. It's either there, or it's not. And for me, it's not. I try to find peace with that. Sometimes I imagine my brain, damaged but fighting, just decided it needed to shut off the lights for a while. That it needed to protect me from the trauma, from the surgery, from the vulnerability of being too close to death. Maybe forgetting is a kindness. But it doesn't always feel like a kindness. It feels like erasure. Like my story has a ripped out chapter I'll never recover. And so I write what I can. I write what I do remember. I tell the stories I've been told. I try to give that missing month a voice, even if it's borrowed from others, because I may not remember it, but it's still a part of me. Even lying in a hospital bed, probably covered in wires and tubes, barely conscious of where I was, still making jokes, giving people sex, and somehow charming staff. They saw parts of me that were still alive, still fighting, still me. There's something incredibly vulnerable about having no memory of such a major moment in your life. It's like everyone else got to witness something that fundamentally changed you, but you missed it. You're told stories about yourself that you don't remember living through. And in some strange way, it makes those little details, like a sarcastic cough or a nurse's nickname, even more sacred. So yeah, I was spicy in the neuro ICU, and I think that's when everyone realized she's still in there. Recovery is not a straight line. It's not inspirational quotes and milestones, steady progress. It's repetitive, it's boring, it's humiliating sometimes. It's crying to your OT guy that you can't do it, which I've done. It's grieving things that you didn't know you'd lose. People celebrate survival, but they don't always stay for recovery. There's this assumption that once you're alive, you're done. But that's when the real work starts. I had to sit with versions of myself I didn't recognize. I had to learn patience in a body that forced it on me. One of the hardest parts wasn't physical pain. It was identity loss. Who am I if I move slower? Who am I if I need help? I had to rebuild my relationship with my body from scratch. Not as something that has betrayed me, but as something that has survived with me. That took time, and anger, and sadness, and grief. And eventually, something softer began to emerge. Acceptance. Not as surrender, but as partnership. This next section was written later, when I started to volunteer at the Sedona Heritage Museum. My aphasia was a mess, my right side was overstimulated, and I was less than a year after my stroke. Nate, Kathy, Julie were the kindest people. And the volunteers, Skip, Kathleen, Clancy, Karen, I mean, they're just the kindest people. I was going to read a part of that, but I'm not now, so, okay. Survival taught me that strength is quiet. It's showing up when no one is clapping. It's learning your limits and honoring them. It's resting without guilt. It taught me that healing doesn't mean going back. It means moving forward. Change. I stopped measuring my life by productivity. I stopped waiting to feel better. I learned that being alive is not a finish line. It's a responsibility to myself. There's a point in recovery where you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking a different question. How do I live with this? Living with an AVM, or the aftermath of a stroke or a TBI, is not just a medical experience. It's a daily one. Waking up in a body that carries memories. It's navigating fear that doesn't always have a language. It's learning how to rest in a world that rewards pushing through. The next part is from a chapter I wrote called Living with an AVM, which is chapter 23, pages 201 to 203. After the stroke, the ICU, the surgeries, the silence, the learning to walk and talk again, I came out the other side with something I never expected, a mission. I've realized now that surviving isn't just something I did, it's something I carry now. I didn't go through all of this just to keep it to myself. I went through it so that I could stand up for others who are going through it now, who feel lost and scared and unheard. Advocacy has become part of who I am. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as sharing my story, answering a message from someone newly diagnosed, or telling a caregiver you're not alone. Sometimes it's writing this book, or showing up at the museum, or planning a retreat that helps survivors reconnect with joy again. I advocate because this community needs more voices. We need better access, better education, more funding, more empathy, and more understanding. Stroke survivors, especially younger ones, are often misunderstood and overlooked. AVMs are rare, and because of that, people are left scrambling for answers that aren't out there. The fear that comes with that is heavy. I felt it. And if I can be a light in that darkness for even one person, then it's worth it. I want to create a space where people feel seen and safe, where they don't have to explain every detail to be believed, where they can exhale and laugh and cry and feel human again. Because I've learned, when you survive, you have the power to help others survive too. This isn't just my story anymore. It's a story for everyone who's fighting, recovering, wondering if life will ever be normal again. It might not look like the way you imagined, but there is life after all of this, and it can still be beautiful. And that's why I created Living with an AVM. One of the deepest dreams in my heart is to create something that didn't exist for me when I needed it most. A space where AVM and stroke survivors can feel understood, cared for, genuinely supported. A retreat, but not just any retreat, one filled with healing, hope, connection, and joy. When you've survived something so life-altering, you crave understanding, you crave community. You want to be around people who get it. You don't flinch when you search for a word or get tired after just walking across a room. You want a place where you don't have to explain why your speech is slower, your arms curl up, why loud noises overwhelm you. You want to be able to just be and still be celebrated. That's the kind of space I want to build. A retreat for stroke and AVM survivors where we laugh together, maybe in nature, maybe by water, or maybe in Sedona. To laugh, to cry, to connect, to heal, to rest. Where we can do art therapy, movement classes tailored to our bodies, journaling, maybe even some light horseback riding, or music therapy. Where caregivers can join us in some parts, but we survivors also have a sacred space for just us. Where no one has to be on, and everyone feels welcome exactly as they are. It's a place for sharing stories, rebuilding confidence, and breathing a little deeper. It's a way of saying, you matter. Your healing matters. You're not alone. The dream is big, and I know that it will probably take time, planning, support, and faith. But I've come this far. I've already survived the unthinkable. And I believe this retreat will happen, not just once, but over and over again, helping people across the country and maybe even around the world, because we deserve it. Because healing doesn't happen alone. Because life after stroke can still be full of love, meaning, support, and connection. And I want to be a part of creating that. When I was living this chapter, not writing it, I didn't need advice. I needed space. I needed people who didn't flinch when I talked about my body. People who understood that survival comes with grief. People who didn't rush me towards optimism. And this is the idea where the retreats came from. Imagine places where people living with AVMs or strokes can exhale. Where no one has to explain why they're tired, where rest is respected. Not a place to be fixed. A place to be understood. A place where surviving isn't the most interesting thing about you, but it's honored. These retreats aren't about erasing trauma. They're about building life alongside it. Creating this version of me helped me shift from asking, What did this take from me to asking, what can I build? Because I'm still here. It gave my survival direction. And it reminded me that meaning doesn't come from pretending something didn't hurt. It comes from choosing what to do from the truth of it. I'm grateful for who I became because I survived it. I live with awareness now, with intention, with a deeper respect for my body, even on hard days. If there's one thing I hope you can take from this, it's this. Survival is not weakness. Needing help is not failure, and healing does not have a deadline. If you are surviving something, be gentle with yourself. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're still here. And sometimes that's everything. Thank you guys so much for coming. I am so grateful for all of you. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I forgot to go through my slideshow, so. Okay, so here's an AVM. That was me at the Sedona Hospital with my best friends. And this is the rupture, which happened on May 30th of 2021. I'm glad I don't look like that anymore. Recovery, this is an inpatient rehab. I was there for almost a month.
Where was that at?
This was at Barrows Neurological Institute, so down in Phoenix. This is about a year after my stroke, when I started volunteering at the Sedona Heritage Museum, which literally solved my aphasia, because when I first started here, my words would get mixed up. I would say something was actually $3 and it was actually $4. Like, stuff would get mixed up all the time. And after speaking here and speaking consistently, I think it's pretty much solved. So my life today, I have an angiogram next week, which is fun. So much fun. They go in basically through your groin and go all the way up to your head somehow. I don't know how, but yeah. So, but this was last year when I had the gamma knife again for a second round. And that's my book.
And you're self-published?
Yes. Yep. So does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you sometimes feel like you miss the person you were before the stroke? Or do you more feel like you're the newest version of you?
I think sometimes because where I was a week before my stroke, I was in LA working a blood pattern analysis course, which is something that the lady that I was working for teaches to different cops and forensic personnel. Don't know why I was doing that. But, so it was very dark, the stuff I was working with. I was going to law school. I was just go, go, go all the time. Do sometimes I think I could go back? Yeah. Do I want to? No. Yeah. I think this new version of me is so much better. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Are there different versions of strokes or different types?
Yes. Yes, okay. My speech therapist taught me this, so you'd be proud of me. So a stroke, there are two different types of stroke. There's an ischemic stroke, which makes up 85% of the strokes. That's when there's the lack of oxygen to the brain. There's also a hemorrhagic stroke, which is what I had, which is where the brain is bleeding. So that only makes up 15% of strokes, and that strokes tends to be more deadly. So, yeah. Yeah.
Did the fall on your head technically cause this? Did they
Yeah,
say it?
I think it did, because my head broke my fall like 4 feet. And so, and you know, I had been riding horses, so I had been kicked off the horse, you know, so much. But I guess just where I hit it, definitely caused a slow leak in my brain. Yeah.
You are extraordinarily well-spoken. I'm not. And I wanted to tell you that you did an outstanding speech. And I'm curious as to whether or not you feel like that part of you is at 100%, or is there something that you still need to, quote, get back?
I think I'm at 110%.
There you go. Yes.
That's just my opinion. So, I don't know, but I'm so grateful to be alive. It's like, I'm so thankful to be alive, to be here. I'm grateful. I think I'm 110%. Could I be 120? Maybe.
There you go. I love it. You are a hero. You really are.
So, if anyone wants to buy a book, we have them up here, and I would love to sign your book. So yeah, thank you guys all for coming.
Thank you. Which way do we go to the book? Over there?
Hold it, hold it, hold it. Well, you are an advocate, very well spoken, very well organized, inspiring, and your family here at the Heritage Museum will always support you.